Style, it's all elite, not accepting defeat. A lot can change in 1 year, but more can change in 1 week. Believe the hype, the train's leaving tonight. Hit the throttle, we heading straight to Chicago. It's only getting better, this is our future endeavor. I can't wait to see the fight between Pac, Kenny, Omega. It's bound to be killer, the winner have to consider. It will all be over quicker, deliver the beat trigger. It's picking up, Lucha Bros versus...
Don't mean shit. These records don't mean shit.
Podcast, I can't see you.
Oh yeah, well he's filming it.
Hey,
You're listening to All Elite Podcast, and we're best
fans, I'm checking these trends.
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite Podcast. We are back on Thursdays. Due to some vacation scheduling situations there, I was on a quick little trip, so we weren't able to run things on Wednesday as usual, but we are back nonetheless. I am joined by my boy, Resident Mark, All Elite Wrestling fan, anime nerd. AJ, how are you doing?
Doing all right. I've had writer's block. That's been an issue, but I got a writing partner today, so hopefully that goes well.
Nice,
how are you?
Man. That's good to hear that you've got someone helping you out, at least getting things done there. So I'm doing all right. Like I said, just got back from a trip, so that was nice. It was exciting to get away for a little bit and enjoy time with my family, my brothers, my girlfriend, and my brother's girlfriend. So it was a fun little time there. We got to go see a Denver Nuggets basketball game. Never been to an NBA game before, so that was pretty sweet. Otherwise, I really haven't been up to much, just going back to college, so this semester has been pretty busy. That's why things have been a little bit hectic for the listeners. If you're wondering why our schedule has been all over the place, that's kind of why we've been dealing with vacations, schedules changing for school and stuff like that. So it's been a little bit difficult to hammer things out, but nonetheless, we are here, and we are back with another episode of Dynamite. So like I said, I was on vacation for the last couple of days, so I actually missed out on last night's episode of Dynamite. But no fear, because we're going to do things a little different today. AJ will run down the show. I'll give my thoughts and opinions on how it sounds, and then obviously I'm going to go and watch it after we're done recording, and I'll give my take probably on Monday's episode. So let's go ahead and just kick things off, AJ. How was? Let's get your overall thoughts on this week's episode, and then you can just jump in, and we'll start from the top.
I thought it was good. It had a really strong first hour, a really strong ending. Overall, I liked it a lot. I thought it was a solid show. We should maybe talk about the ratings first, because the ratings are like really good this week, and that's indicative because it was a good episode. I think it was like 900,000 to 700,000, so that's good, or around there. But overall, great show. I enjoyed it a lot. I had fun. Didn't want to change the channel once.
That's good to hear, man. It's good to hear that everything seemed to be like AEW seems to be on a steady roll of being consistently decent or good, or sometimes even great. And that's kind of what you're looking for in a wrestling promotion and a product that we want to tune into every week. So that's good to know. As you stated, the ratings weren't too bad this week. They continue to sit around the same spot. It's worth noting that NXT has fallen to their relative norm of about 750 to 800,000 viewers per week without the additional help from the main roster. They obviously involved Charlotte on this week's episode of NXT, but they didn't get that main roster boost that they've been getting. Nope. And I think that's going to be very disappointing for NXT as they roll into WrestleMania season, trying to utilize a big event in the Royal Rumble to still compete with AEW, and it's not working.
Yeah. If you're having top stars like Charlotte go on the show and you're still not getting a bump, that's a problem for them.
Oh, for sure. And I think it just has to do with like maybe the way they're promoting it or the story. I really don't tune into WWE much, and this obviously isn't a WWE-centric podcast, so I'm not trying to bore the listeners in explaining what has happened on NXT or whatever, but it's interesting to note how much WWE is trying to contend with what AEW is putting on Wednesday nights, and it's not working, you would say. Despite, arguably, people will say NXT is a better show. They're putting on a better storylines right now. I really don't follow NXT to compare, so I have to say AEW is better. But people might argue that NXT is better, but regardless, there are more fans tuning into AEW, and it's not far off from being 1 million viewers per week, which is that's kind of what you want. That's what we were aiming for. So the ratings they continue to be good for AEW, and a pleasant change. Yeah. Well, like it's a pleasant surprise for things to continue to be so well, especially as going into the beginning of the new year, we weren't sure. Things were kind of sketchy at the end of last year. So
yeah, It was getting dicey, but like it's clearly evened out to a point where AEW is just consistently winning with a pretty consistent number around 800,000 or 900,000. And honestly, it seems like it's building, and that's only good because the more people who watch solid shows, which I would call this a solid show, the better, because you just have more people tuning in next week. But to get into the show a little bit, let's kick it off with, we started with Chris Jericho coming out. Chris Jericho, Sammy G, and Jake Hager came out before the Moxley Ortiz match, and they all joined the commentary team. Obviously, Jake Hager didn't say anything during the commentary. Sammy G really didn't say anything either. It was mostly Jericho, which is probably for the best. But we had Jon Moxley beating Ortiz in about an 8-minute match. And it was a good match. This was really solid. Ortiz looked good. He really, like, because you really don't think about Santana and Ortiz as singles wrestlers. To get to see them shine a little bit is pretty cool. You knew who was going to win. It's not like you're shocked that Ortiz lost, but it was cool to see. That's all. And it helped build to the match. It really did the job that it was set out to do. So I thought it was good. Post-match is where it gets interesting, though, because post-match we had Santana attack Jon Moxley from behind, but he gets laid out with the paradigm shift. Then Mox starts teasing Jericho with the car keys. He holds Santana down, and he jams the key into Santana's eye. And Jericho's screaming. He's saying, go get him, go get him. But by the time they get to the ring, Jon Moxley's gone. And Santana's there holding his eye. So eye for an eye with Jon Moxley, which was pretty interesting. I thought that did a lot to build to this. I thought this was a great match just to build to Revolution, and I think it did a great job there.
Yeah, and a good way for Moxley to establish himself as someone that the rest of the inner circle shouldn't mess with. He has made it very clear now. I obviously haven't seen the segment, but it seems he's made it clear that if you're in the inner circle and you fuck with him, you're gonna get exactly what Jericho or the rest of the inner circle bring on to him. So he's showing the rest of the group, like, hey, you might want to let your boss handle this, because this one's for me. In terms of the match, I'm actually excited to check this one out. I love Proud and Powerful. I like to see them each get an opportunity to showcase themselves a little bit in a singles capacity, either through storyline or the match itself here. So that's good. And Jericho on commentary is always great. So was it the three of them on commentary and no commentators, or was it the 3+ Jim Ross, Excalibur, and
the 3+, but you basically just had Jericho talking. Sammy would respond to Jericho every now and then. So it was basically Jericho on commentary with his lackeys with him.
That's cool, though. That's a good way to, like, having Sammy involved, even just a tiny bit, makes it a little bit more different than just the general having the champion do commentary. So interesting way to continue to build that storyline. I look forward to checking that out. That's good stuff.
Yep. After that one, we got SCU and the Best Friends. SCU beat the Best Friends here. This was also relatively around the same time, about a 9-minute match. This was great because I really wasn't sure. I mean, I had an idea SCU was going to win, but because they're not the champions anymore, I'm like, I don't know who they're going to be pushing going forward for the belts. So who knew? But SCU got away with it, and they beat the Best Friends. It was a really good match. It was solid. It was exactly what you would expect from SCU and the Best Friends. You know, very. I don't even want to say it was PWG, because it was kind of more of a traditional tag match to me in that way. But it was really solid. And then post match, I wasn't super into this. The Dark Order came out. It wasn't bad. I don't want to say, oh, this is one of those Dark Order segments that's always terrible. But the Dark Order come out. They lay out SCU. They start laying out everybody, not just SCU, the Best Friends too. And then Orange comes out of the ring because he was ringside the whole time. Orange Cassidy is there. The Dark Order offer him a mask, and he goes to pick it up and then puts his hands in the pockets. And then they just beat the hell out of Orange, and they start stomping on him. Then Christopher Daniels comes out, because that's the goal, is that they're attacking Christopher Daniels' friends, or that's what they said last week, that they're going to attack his friends, his family, his loved ones. So that was the idea. And then Daniels comes out to save him, but they don't want to fight Daniels yet. They just want to hurt everybody around him. So he's saying, come on, come get me. He's laying down in the ring saying, come on. And they're just not taking the bait. So they leave. The crowd, this kind of got over, because the crowd booed the hell out of him when they started to leave. So that, I mean, it worked. And Excalibur was sure to mention the Exalted One about like 4 or 5 times because they definitely want to push that Evil Uno is not the main guy here. But it was fine. It did what they're trying to set up, I think. So I was okay with it. It wasn't my favorite thing though.
Yeah, decent way to tease the Daniels involvement with the Dark Order. I'm interested to see this just to kind of see how the reaction from the crowd is and see how well they can put it together because honestly it sounds kind of interesting to me. Someone who wants to see a long-term storyline like this develop into something worthwhile. This is turning into about 6 months almost of the Dark Order that you and I have been subject to, and now it seems like it's starting to get a little interesting that we have a real story here. It's not just Uno being assumed as the leader as you and I had kind of thought initially, and now we're going to get a real leader eventually, and who knows, maybe it is Daniels, maybe they're just really trying hard to recruit Daniels. Like, this could be a lot of interesting different things that I like the way they're doing it, and I hope they at least the main way to cap something like this off is to have a really good video package. So they need to have like the end game kind of figured out now so they can plot out that type of thing, you know. But otherwise, this sounds interesting. The tag match itself is decent. I'm curious, did Orange get a big pop when he threw his hands in the pockets?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay,
God, yeah.
That's the most important part of all of that, I think. So the reaction that someone like he gets, and that kind of continues to build him despite him never really having to put on too many matches. So they're doing a really interesting job with this, something that you and I really didn't like. But at least they've fixed it and made it into something we can kind of get interested in. So
yeah. After that, we got MJF. He's it's a video package promo. He's talking about Cody. He's referencing the walk behind her line from a famous Dusty Rhodes promo, and he says he's gonna whip Cody into submission and that he'll never be a walk behind her again. I don't totally know what that means. I'm not gonna pretend I do, but he's obviously going for Cody's heart with, talking about Dusty and using Dusty references. So it was cool. MJF always good on the mic, cuts a good promo. This didn't really go long either, so it was pretty good.
I like this because, again, this seems like we're building good storylines here. I really haven't seen it, but based on the way that you're presenting this promo, it sounds pretty good. And I kind of get the vibe that MJF might be putting off in the sense of I'm not going to be someone who is following in footsteps, i.e. the way he was following Cody. He's not going to be a walk behind her. Anymore. So that's interesting, and to play off of the whole Dusty thing is really ingenious as well. And this continues to be a great storyline for MJF to really elevate him to that top level. And we obviously continue that throughout the night in the main event segment. So I'm excited for all of that, just because this is a story that I'm invested in, and it's kind of interesting. I had sort of breezed through the results and didn't really find myself too. I wasn't in a hurry to check out Dynamite, but now understanding that these storylines are being built up, I'm kind of excited to turn it on. I'm not gonna lie.
We talk about how AEW has trouble building new stars, but that's absolutely not the case with MJF. If there's any case of building new stars, MJF is the example, because goddamn, they have pushed this guy to the moon and the fans absolutely hate him. And it's working perfectly. So if ever there was a breakout new star in AEW, it's MJF for sure. And he just consistently delivers.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
After that, we got a really interesting match. It was short as hell, but we got Yuka Sakazaki making her Dynamite debut against Britt Baker. Britt Baker was cutting a promo. I don't think it was in picture, but I caught it on a stream because they were doing the fight broadcast. It was an awkward promo, so it doesn't matter. It wasn't on TV, but she was just peeling it up on the fans. So I think that helped because Britt Baker got beat in about 3.5 minutes here by Yuka Sakazaki. And Yuka Sakazaki looked great, but Britt Baker could not, for the life of her, take her moves well. Like, she did a basic Hurricane Rana. Britt Baker didn't sell it right. All of her signature moves, Britt Baker seemed to keep fumbling. But Yuka looked great. After the match, though, this is where it was really cool, and I really hope that this was work because it looked scary as hell. Baker takes the ring bell and hits her in the back and lays her out, and then she makes her bite the bottom rope and she curb stomps her. And I know it has to be gimmicked, obviously, but Yuka's mouth is bleeding and her teeth are in her hand, her bloody teeth, and it looks just gnarly as hell.
Dang.
So it's really, it looked great. I mean, God, it better be gimmicked, right? And then she takes it further because she does the lockjaw while her mouth is all bloody and it just looks really savage. So Britt Baker totally pissed that she got just geeked by Yuka Sakazaki. So this is something where I guess we're going to see more of Yuka, or I assume we will, because I think she's in TJPW still. I'm not sure that she signed AEW, but I mean, if she's here and she's doing an angle like this, then I hope we get to see more of her, because that was a really interesting angle.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. And at first it's like so shocking, and you hear about her teeth and the blood and shit. I'm like, holy shit, that doesn't sound like, that sounds crazy. And then I think about it, Britt's obviously got the dentist gimmick, so like it's nice when there's a gimmick like that involved where you're like, yes, this was a work. She's not. Because I haven't seen it yet, so that's the even crazier part for me, is the way you're describing it. I'm like, holy shit, she sounds like her whole mouth is busted open. But Britt being the dentist, it makes sense what they're playing into there, and that's pretty cool. That's interesting. I kind of, again, I like this story here, and I'm curious to see where it goes. And I love Yuka, and Britt's Britt, man. We're gonna have our problems with her in-ring execution for a while, until things can really smoothen out, and hopefully they do. She's someone who could really benefit from working like some indies during the week or the weekend or things like that. But in time, she'll get better, and otherwise her story work is doing well enough for me. Now, you mentioned the promo wasn't very good, but afterwards it sounds like they've got something good lined up for her, so that's good.
And the promo, honestly, I think it helped the situation, because the fans, she got the heat on her, like, very easily, even if it was a bad promo. So even though it wasn't on TV, I just thought it was worth pointing out, because she really did get the heat on her. So when she did this, it was just, damn, the crowd was really, really hating her. It was perfect.
And talk about a shocking upset win of Yuka Sakazaki.
Oh yeah, 3 minutes. Like, goddamn.
Shout out to our boy Matt. He would be saying the upset win for Yuka over Britt Baker. So it's cool to see these type of things too, and it's nice when it's someone like Britt, who we might not be so fond of, being the one to take the loss. So that's cool.
Yeah. I was super into it. But after that, we got the Lucha Bros and the Butcher and the Blade beating the Elite and Adam Page. This happened because Adam Page was refusing to tag in the Young Bucks. The whole match, he wouldn't tag in the Young Bucks. And then there was a critical point in the match where, Adam Page is hurt. He needs to tag in. He goes to tag in Kenny. Kenny gets taken off the apron. The Young Bucks jump up on the apron. They're both asking for a tag. He says, "No, I got this." Shoos him away, turns around, and then he just gets geeked. And so he just cost the whole team the match. And after the match, they're saying, "Come on, where was the tag? Where was the tag?" Kenny is trying to be the mediator between everybody, and it's just not going well. And they all just kind of leave, but everybody's really salty and everybody's pissed at Paige. I thought that was cool. I thought that was a really smart way to do this, because I'm going to say this. In my notes, I had written, just preemptively, because I do this when I guess, that the Elite and Adam Page beat Lucha Brothers and Butcher and the Blade. So when they won, I was like, oh shit. But this was a really solid match. Not only that, it did a lot to build up this Adam Page angle.
Yeah, this is the theme of this episode, is that there are good stories being told, and it's leading to an interesting episode that I want to check out, which is key, because if I am feeling this way as someone who hasn't seen it, people who did tune in this week, you have to assume, are going to want to tune in next week to see the continuation of these storylines that are being presented. And that's the key point. It doesn't even have to necessarily be the best top-notch in-ring product. If the stories that we're getting are that good or that interesting, that's perfect. And they've done a good job at also 86ing or nixing the storylines that people aren't too interested in, like the Nightmare Collective thing. Now, I know they addressed it on Dark on Tuesday, I believe, in some way, maybe even ended it, but nonetheless, it is something that is being not showcased as much, and that's important.
I would say, because of this episode, and we'll get to it when we talk about the main event, the Nightmare Collective is as good as dead. Not only is Kong filming Glow, But what happens later in the last segment, it just feels like that they realized that was a bad idea and they're killing it, which is great. They're learning from the mistakes.
Dude, if that is the thing, then you know what? It's perfect. And I'm so glad. And then in that case, we have to apologize to like Brandy and saying how much were we like, they're never going to get rid of this because that's Cody's wife. Well, they at least took the initiative to say this isn't working. She took the initiative. She had to, because this is literally the man's wife. Like no matter how big of like, no matter how close they are, this could create some type of dilemma in your relationship. Thinking about it realistically. So for him to be able to have that conversation with her and her to be like, you know what, you're probably right. This isn't getting over properly. We need to get rid of this. It's fantastic, and it's exactly what we need from AEW. And again, we've talked about this before, where you and I were so trained to the WWE way, where nepotism always wins out, where that storyline wouldn't have been removed. It would have just been tripled down on, and the biggest stars would have ended up involved in it. Whereas instead, they have seemed to, again, back away from it, and that's perfect. So I'm glad.
Based on Dark, I'm assuming it's not like completely gone, because I think Mel is going to keep being a heel and Luther is going to be behind her. But whatever, that's fine. Mel's a fine worker, and if she has a manager behind her, that's okay. I'm not expecting her to be at the top of the food chain in the women's division, so I really don't mind it. But it seems like, for all intents and purposes, as far as I can tell, the Nightmare Collective is just not going to keep happening.
Good.
Then we got, Tony Schiavone in the back with Kenny Omega in the back pocket. Oh, yeah, sorry. I totally got confused. After the match, Tony Schiavone gets in the ring with Kenny Omega. And in the back, he's going to interview him. In the back, Pac shows up, and he's there with Riho, and he's saying, "You've left Nakazawa for dead. You don't care about him. So how about I, go after Riho?" And Omega immediately goes, "I agree. We can have your match. You got your match." And then Pac says, "He's a bastard, but he's not a beast. He would never hit a woman, but she's a beast." And then Nyla Rose comes out and he lays out Riho and she puts her through a table, and Nyla just kills Riho. So that was really cool. I kind of butchered talking about it, but that was a good angle. That sets up Pac and Omega. So Pac finally gets his match. He threatened Riho, and that finally got Kenny to do it. I don't know what I want to see. I want to get your thoughts when you see this, because it was kind of like out of the blue, and you have the Omega and Hangman thing going on. So I'm interested in how they're going to book all of this together. But as far as the standalone segment goes, this was very good to me.
Well, and the thing that I'll commend them on without seeing anything is building storylines together and making it make sense. We have Pac involving Riho in this, and what makes the most sense is to have Nyla be the one who destroys Riho, and the way he presented it is so good, and Pac getting his match with Kenny, it's a good way to set it up, because Kenny has other shit going on, so why would he want that match? So this puts him in that position. It's kind of something you and I were asking for and saying, well, the Michael Nakazawa thing doesn't mean anything. It's not hurting Kenny. He doesn't care. The Riho situation, a lot more real for Kenny, so he has to address it. I'm interested to see it, just because this is a type of segment that they really haven't gotten the best. They haven't done it the best with the Pac stuff and everything. So I'm interested to see how the segment itself is and how they play it out.
Yeah. I'm definitely interested in how they keep up with this feud, because they are going to have a match, but it's a few weeks out, so they have more time to build to it. So that's going to be interesting.
And what's key to that is it's a match set for Dynamite, so we presumably will get the AEW Tag Team title match on the pay-per-view, assuming those guys can retain the titles.
Mm-hmm. And Darby Allin got a video package. This was really short. It's one of those things where Darby did it all himself. It's one of those where he has a Chris Jericho and Sammy G standee, and he has a flamethrower, and he just lights the thing on fire. And that's basically all it is. But it was just a really quick Darby Allin calling out the Inner Circle, basically. So that's interesting. And again, they're continuing on angles. They're not leaving anything behind, and I really like that.
It's important to do something like that, and Darby continuing to be positioned as a very important player in AEW. I'm glad to see anything involving him. The thing that I think will always stick out for me for a while with Darby is I will always immediately then think of Jungle Boy and what they aren't doing with him, just because both guys were so perfect in their roles or their position that they were put in. So it's very easy to compare the two. But nonetheless, I'm glad to see something done with Darby.
Yeah. I couldn't say anything else. That's basically sums up what I was thinking about it. And it was a quick little promo, so there's not much to say. But the following match, I have something to say about. It was Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford beating Joey Janela. This was like an 11-minute match, and it was a good match. It was, Kip Sabian and Joey Janela, exactly what you would expect. They both delivered. Penelope Ford was interfering with the match the whole entire time, getting in the way of things, just totally screwing over Joey Janela. And the match ended in kind of an interesting way where she was up on the apron and Joey Janela goes and runs and he accidentally hits her. And then he's like, oh, shit. And then Kip Sabian rolls him up, gets a handful of tights and gets the pin. So you can tell like it's not over, but I was interested that they just kind of threw this match on the card. They didn't announce that the match was going to happen on the show before. They didn't announce it last week. This was just kind of a thing that happened, and they just kind of threw it at us, which I thought is weird because you have an angle with these guys. You want to have at least a little bit of an announcement, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mentioned skimming the results earlier, and this was one of the first things that caught my eye when I was skimming the results, and sort of I stayed with this and went from this point on. And this was, I think, sort of the reason why I wasn't totally looking forward to this episode, because I haven't loved the build for whatever this storyline is. It feels like a storyline that you would kind of book on EWR that would consistently get you mid to low ratings of something that just isn't clicking the way that you thought it would. And that's really what it is, because these two, while the story is easy to tell and very, very simple because it's real life, they're trying to put a spin on it, and it's not just them going out and saying what really happened. It's instead this gimmicked story, which I understand why you're doing that, because maybe there's legit no heat. Knowing someone like Joey, maybe they just split amicably and there's no real issue there. And he just fucks around, and that's the most of it in terms of that. But so I get that it's hard to tell this story and make people buy into it, but when it's not like that real, it's one of the things where I think maybe we were wrong in asking for it so much, because it doesn't have that feel of like, shit, this is crazy. And when I read the result, I was like, this is ridiculous. And if they're going to do the story of Joey is still concerned about her and has feelings for her and shit, like, it's weird because
they're not presenting it that way. Excalibur during this match was saying Joey Janela seems like he's over her, and that it's them who can't quit Joey.
Well, when Joey knocked her off the apron, he was pretty concerned about it.
And so maybe they're kind of playing into it a little bit.
And that's the thing that I wouldn't, because again, we really know in real life that they split up and she's with Kip, and like that was just a regular choice. And so you're gonna try to make me believe in this storyline of Joey caring, but Kip doesn't, and it's like. You can't, it doesn't work like that anymore, especially when we know of the real relationship. Something like this would work if it was gimmicked from the get-go, from the very beginning. You're like, oh, I knew Joey and Penelope weren't really dating. It was all storyline. And then in storyline, they broke up. And then in storyline, she ended up with Kip. You can tell that story because it's all storyline. This is real life mixed with a storyline, and it's kind of dumb. But I'm going to give it a shot in terms of watching it, and I do like that, again, it's another piece of a story being built. But this is one that, like I said, it stuck out as something that almost made me not too interested in the show, despite it being someone I really like.
This is the weakest part of the show to me. The match was good. I want to say that again. It was a really fine match, and the two definitely delivered on the in-ring wrestling. But it's like a complaint I hear with NXT is that you're relying on just the wrestling when you need better storytelling. And this really doesn't have good storytelling to it. It had good wrestling, but that's about it. So there's an attempt here, and they're definitely trying something, but they need to reevaluate this one a little bit. And I wouldn't even say they need to get rid of it, because they don't. They just need to
just let it be more realistic. Let them just say whatever the fuck is actually going on and go from there. let Penelope, like maybe Joey should have been the heel in all realistic aspects of him trying to get her back in smarmy ways and her being like, I don't like you, I never liked you, like something more believable than what we're being presented with them trying to present Joey as a babyface, despite Kip kind of being a natural babyface in the way he looks and stuff like that. I think that's another, like, it's like this is something that can work, but there's so many obstacles in front of it that it's like, maybe I was wrong in saying so hard that they should have tried this story, because it's the way it's being presented. I just don't love it, and I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple weeks I'm sitting here talking about how much I'm enjoying it. So the thing that I also have that I'm noticing is Joey's better at just being Joey. You have to just let him be this crazy accurate, like just himself, his crazy, and not try and be any type of character, because I feel like he's trying to do the thing where in wrestling they're like, well, I myself just turned up to 100, but he's turned himself up to 1,000, and it just seems so crazy fake.
It definitely comes off as hokey, and his promos don't feel very real, and he's just like always, he did that voice that one time, and it always comes off as awkward, and it's not the Joey Janela that we want to see.
And the thing is, this man, Joey, I've been a big fan of his for years now. He's someone who I thought he had already developed his character. He already like he was Joey Janela, this kind of like a quasi rock star, like indie punk rock hero type of thing. Whereas now it's like he's trying to find himself all over again, and you don't need to. What you were was fine. Let him just be what he was on the independent scene. And that may never turn into a main event level caliber guy, but it's definitely could translate to an upper mid card talent who could be showcased in many ways. So that's the bummer with Joey. But he kind of, the fucked up thing is, man, is it's Joey and all of his guys who I'm just so bummed to see not getting the treatment they should have.
Yeah,
all of those
Jungle
game
Boy,
changer
Marco.
dudes, like, yeah, man.
Yeah. But who knows? They've been pretty good about, fixing stuff that's not working or nixing stuff that's not working. And so maybe, like you said, in a few weeks, we'll be raving about how great it is. But right now, I'm not feeling it. And I don't know if that's going to change anytime
I just
soon,
never
but
thought I would go into I never thought I would be in AEW at this point and be thinking that my favorite wrestler is just not entertaining to me anymore, and I can't really figure out why.
My bright side here, like devil's advocate, I'm glad that we're seeing Kip Sabian and Joey Janela on TV. I'm glad that we're seeing them wrestle. I'm glad that we're putting them in angles. I'm glad that we're trying something with stars that are basically relatively unknown to mass audiences. And I like that they're really trying to do angles with guys, but you gotta make them good angles if it's going to be with guys who people don't know.
Yeah, I think they just need to sit some of these guys down and be like, listen, be who you were. We don't all have to develop something new. Like what you had on the independent scene worked. That's what got you here. You don't have to try and now that you're at the dance, try and reinvent yourself entirely. This isn't WWE where you have to become a whole new character. And again, I get that it's probably Joey just trying to turn himself up times 1,000 and be a little bit extra, but I think that someone within AEW needs to be like, dude, just do you. Just do what you were doing all the way
to down to earth Joey, because he's way more likable.
And the thing is, I think he's a natural heel too, in a sense. He's a heel that people like. That it's like the Stone Cold type of thing where he does a bunch of fucked up shit, but everybody loves it. Like that's what made me really like Joey, was like a gimmick where he came into a promotion and like tried to kill someone with putting a plastic bag over their head and then cut a sick promo about it. Like that realized would have been so much better.
I realized that he was a natural heel when I saw how much heat he was getting when I was at Fyter Fest and he was wrestling Jon Moxley, because he was able to get this crowd to hate him. And he wasn't even really trying to get the crowd to hate him. He was just, wrestling Jon Moxley. But damn, and it's not, obviously you're with the top face, so it's easy to make him into a heel there. But damn, he's just gravitates towards being a smarmy asshole, and it just works for him.
And I get the idea of like he's literally one of the most popular independent wrestling superstars like there was up until AEW started. He was doing kind of the AEW thing with his Janela Spring Break, selling out a 2,000-seat spot for an indie show that he had put together. So I get wanting to present him as a babyface, but he needs to be more of like a dickhead babyface. That's what people loved about him. It's not because he's a clean-cut, lovable guy. Like, that's not it. But that doesn't mean that we don't like him. And that's what's weird. We've spent a long time probably talking about Janela, so we'll move on from the Janela cast.
Yeah. After that, we got a promo backstage. Jericho is ranting that how dare any man who would dare take out another man's eye is terrible, which is ironic, obviously. Santana, though, he has the eye patch on now. He's pissed. He's saying he's had a bad month, but Moxley, you've unleashed something new in me, and next week I'm coming for you. And he says an eye for an eye. And so Santana is on a mission to kill Moxley at this point. It does feel a little bit like we're going back to the well, because we just did Ortiz and Mox, and it seems like, well, I mean, we are going to do Santana and Moxley, but I don't know. I really liked how Santana delivered it, and I'm not really against seeing the kind of same match, even though it's going to be a kind of a repeat. I'm interested in seeing Santana work a singles match with Jon Moxley. It's going to be fun for me anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the same vein as when we started the episode and me saying I like Proud and Powerful, so I'm excited to see these guys get to mix it up with Moxley in singles capacity. I like the idea of Santana maybe having a little bit more of a reason to want to take out Moxley, so might be going there a little bit more angry and vicious, and we might get like a real scrappy type of fight here. I could also see Moxley kind of picking up a win in short order. The one thing I don't like, and it is like it's almost a non-factor complaint because it is professional wrestling. You have to suspend your disbelief. But this dude was just stabbed in the eye, the same way Moxley was stabbed in the eye. Can we stop having people who are stabbed in the eye wrestle next week? That's my only request. Like, they were stabbed in the eye. But again, it makes sense. He wants his fight. He wants his revenge on Moxley. So we're building to that. Is Moxley still wearing an eye patch?
He was wearing an eye patch this episode. I'm really hoping
it's going to be an eye patch match. An eye patch on a pole match.
But they really got to take that thing off of him because it's been a while now.
Yeah. Well,
but it was black this time. He looked just like Barrick.
Nice.
So I was okay with it.
That's cool. But yeah, it's a good match. It'll be a fun little match. So
after that, we cut to the Young Bucks backstage, and they're pissed with Adam Page. Adam Page is there drinking a beer, and Matt says he thinks he knows what the problem is, and he takes away the beer from him and gives him a reality check. But Page, after they leave, lifts up a pitcher of beer and drinks out of that.
What do you mean he gave him a reality check? Is it a check that says reality on it, or was he just like...
He wrote a check that's... No, he took away the beer, and Page kind of looked off into the distance.
Well, way... You never fucking know with these guys, first of all. This could easily be some type of being the elite skit where they're like...
It was a little bit.
Here's where your problem is. Let me take your liquor. You need a reality check. And Hangman just like rips it up or something. So, but it's good to see. Like, I get what you're trying to say here, though. That Hangman got the reality, but it wasn't really a reality check because he's like, "Fuck it, I got more beer."
Yeah.
And that's what I want to see from Hangman. This is perfect for him because he should be saying this to these guys. They did nothing to help build him up at the beginning of AEW, and he's doing fine himself. So.
Yeah, and I mean, they have right to be pissed at him here, but at the end of the day, Hangman really doesn't seem to care that much because, I don't know, he's the tag team champion. He lost the match, and he was like, he was just making excuses during this promo, but it was really short, and so they were just pissed at him and kind of walked away. But like you said, it did the job, and it's making Page look great, and he's getting over it. Immediately when they cut away, you saw a guy holding a sign that says "Drink with me, Hangman," and so people love this shit, man.
Yep, and I love it, so I can't blame anybody else for loving it, and it's working. So, and they haven't really fucked it up yet, so that's good.
Yeah. And then they run down what's going to happen next week. Next week, we get Riho versus Nyla Rose for the title, which is apparently not happening at Revolution. It's happening next week. I don't know how I feel about that exactly, but it's cool. We're getting a title match. Hopefully, it's going to be good. What do you think about that before I keep going down there?
It looks like they're positioning Nyla to come out as champion, and that's whatever.
Yeah.
Who do you? The only reason I think that makes no sense and it might not happen is because they haven't built up a single woman to.
Yeah, there was Kong, but she's gone.
To be the baby face to challenge her at Revolution. If anything, they gotta be going towards Britt and Riho at Revolution.
Yeah,
I don't know how that story intertwines, but I assume it will. So.
Then they announced officially Jon Moxley is going to take on Santana, so that's going to be cool. We talked about, and we're going to get another title match: SCU versus Kenny Omega and Hangman, the tag team titles. So that's 2 title matches next week. No idea why they're stacking this card so high, but I'm not really complaining about it.
I hope both teams just retain. That's all I mean, SCU is fine, but this is a weird one to go back to. If anything,
it is.
What I assume is the Dark Order gets involved and kills SCU, and maybe even Hangman and Kenny, or they imagine that's all I imagine. This Dark Order gets involved, maybe the Bucks come out to try and save Hangman and Kenny dip or something. But that's my assumption, because I don't see SCU winning the titles back. I also don't really see them, why do you want to feed SCU another loss? So
I could see SCU winning if they want to get the titles off of Omega and Hangman to get singles match, but that's the only thing I can see.
I'm so against that, though. I do not want them to be. I wanted them to, if you gave them the titles, give them more than just the 2-week run. At least let it blow up at the pay-per-view. So
that's what I'm thinking, but I guess we'll see. In 2 weeks, we have a tag team battle royal for a number one contendership match. It's a number one contendership tag team battle royal for a title match at Revolution. So that's going to be interesting.
Because their battle royals always turn out so great.
Yeah. And a tag team battle royal at that. I don't know how that's going to exactly work. I don't know how.
I hope they just do it in a way, just do it as it's a regular battle royal, and the last person standing gets to choose their partner to team against. You know what I mean? And it makes sense. You can have regular tag team, because I hate the battle royals where it's a tag team battle royal, and if one partner is eliminated, they're both out, because that just is
don't like
dumb
that
to me. So if you're going to do it, just have it be tag teams, and the last man or the last two, if it's a tag team, is the last two standing, they get it. I hope they do that at least. So
yeah. And the thing is, I just don't know how it's gonna work, and I'm not trusting AEW with the battle royal.
Hopefully we get a new tag team to debut or something, though, because
that would be cool.
That's all I assume with battle royals.
So. This is the show where they booked that huge arena, so this better not suck. That's all that I'm gonna say.
And something else that better not suck is the other match they have announced: Wardlow and Cody in a steel cage. That could easily blow up in their face. I don't think it will. I think it will actually be a really impressive showing for someone like Wardlow, and gives them the chance to do gimmicks and still give Cody maybe a win. I mean, maybe not. Maybe he loses. He could also easily get an escape victory without having to pin or submit Wardlow. So that's a smart booking there. So
that would be good. Yeah, that's exactly what they should do now that you mentioned that, because you really don't want to kill Wardlow's hero. He looks like a monster. He's been a total hoss, and the only time he looked stupid was when DDP got in his face, which I hated that, but I don't think anybody remembers that but me at this point, so who cares? Yep. And they said, and I thought they said in 2 weeks. I might be wrong, because 411 Mania, where I was reading shit, said in 3 weeks, Pac versus Omega in a 30-minute Iron Man match. So let's just go with them, and I heard wrong. But 3 weeks, Pac versus Omega, a 30-minute Iron Man match. That's going to be killer. This is going to be awesome. I don't think
that's
there's
perfect.
Any way
that's a good amount of time for them. And they'll separate it with commercial breaks that will also be in picture, so you can see the whole action. And that's a good match. That's a fun match, and it's something I hope this is the blow off, because this is what we've wanted, is that 30-minute with those two. Let them fuck each other up. Let them get some cool shit in. So hopefully this is that, and that'll be a fun one.
Yeah, this is one I'm definitely looking forward to.
Is that the go-home show before the pay-per-view?
It has to be, right? I feel like 3 weeks would be the...
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I really feel like they should have put this on the Atlanta show, right? Because you booked that huge arena. You want to stack that card as much as you can. I would have put the title matches on that show, but I'm not booking, whatever. After that, Dustin Rhodes is backstage. It's a little video package, I guess. He's commenting on Cody having to take 10 lashes. He says Cody is tougher than anyone he knows, and he'll be able to take it. He's tougher than MJF, stuff like that, really quick. And then we cut to the last segment, which I was really surprised, Andrew, by how much I liked the last segment, because I thought, okay, this is going to be... They should have done it last. We talked about that a lot, that they should have waited to do the 10 lashes. And I know other people were saying, no, this is going to be a great segment, but I just kept having doubts. This was a good segment.
Well, all I've seen is the pictures of Cody's back afterwards, which just
my God.
adds to the fact of what I said, and they should have waited because you get that visual going into the pay-per-view. But otherwise, this looks like this is gonna be one to watch.
They murdered this man. They and MJF every step of the way was barking at him, stay down, quit, because he doesn't want Cody to take every 10 lashes. He wants him to quit so that he doesn't get his match. So Cody's takes one, he takes two, he takes three. He's absolutely waylaying on him with this belt. It is disturbing. And Arn Anderson comes out, says, "Don't give up. You can do it. You can do it. You know, you got to fight through it. Blah blah blah." And then after that, he's taking more lasses. And after 5, Dustin comes out and he says, "Let me take the rest. I want to take the rest." And MJF says, "It doesn't work like that. Get out of the ring." And so Dustin encourages Cody, just like Arn, gets out of the ring. By this point, all the heels, the Butcher, the Blade, and I think some other heels are standing at ringside just to watch Cody get his ass whipped. Literally gets back whipped, I guess. And so it sounds kind of stupid, but it worked. And this crowd was a million times behind this. They hated MJF. These people wanted to kill this man. And it was great that way. After that, he takes, I think, 7. Yeah, he takes 7 lashes. The Young Bucks come out. He's down. He's outside of the ring. He can barely take anymore. The Young Bucks are putting up 3 fingers. You got 3 more. You got 3 more. You can do it. And then for he takes another one. And then for the 9th lash, Wardlow says, "MJF, let me do it." And he takes it, and my God, I can't wait till you see this, because he smacks him so hard. You can hear it resound throughout the arena. Wardlow absolutely murders him with it. And then Cody is on the ground. He can't get up. And Brandy Rhodes comes out. And this is why I think Nightmare Collective is dead. Regular-ass Brandy Rhodes comes out. She holds his hands. She's saying, "You can do it. I would take it for you if I could. You can do it. It's one more. You got to get up." And he kisses her hands and he stands up and he takes the last lash. And MJF is pissed that he did. And so he immediately low blows him. The arena, the locker room pours into the ring to go get at MJF, but he runs out into the crowd. A fan attacks MJF in the crowd. I don't know if that was a plant. They wanted to murder this man.
That's badass.
He low blowed him, took off. Fan attacked him. Wardlow took out the fan. And it was really well done.
I hope at the very least that it wasn't a plant, because and here's why, because you need to not encourage, I get that it would be technically discouraging this type of behavior, but I'm pretty sure that the MJF getting a soda thrown at him was a plant, and then this, and what you're kind of doing is you're still kind of encouraging it, despite the fact that you ejected the fake fan or whatever, and then this fan gets taken out by Wardlow. Yes, fans aren't necessarily going to think oh, I should do that so I can get fucked up by Wardlow, but you never know. There's definitely going to be fans who are like, fuck it, I want to get fucked up by Wardlow. So, I mean, and so, but again, and if it was a plant, it's not a bad thing, and it tells a good story, and it actually helps to the story. So,
plant. I'm going to take
again, I assume that's kind of where we were last time with the water bottle. We assume it is, but if it's not, I don't know. And I mean, and if they are, again, it's not the end of the world to do this type of shit. It just does become, and it's the thing is it's becoming consistent with MJF, where I do think that it will become encouraged for people to start consistently throwing shit at him or this or that, and it adds a good visual. But it is in 2020, it's a lot more of a dangerous thing to toy with than it would have been 30 years ago. So that's my only gripe with it. But it sounds like a fucking sweet segment. I can't wait to check it out. The whole episode looks good.
My takeaway here is I really didn't think I was going to like this. I thought it was going to be weird or it was going to be the Tommy Dreamer thing, but it wasn't any of that. It was Cody just gritting his teeth, tears in his eyes, trying to take everyone, falling down, getting up. There was one spot where MJF, and I forgot to mention this, the first flash, he snaps the belt and Cody flinches, and the fans wanted to murder him. And I think that's the takeaway here. Even if you watch this and you think the segment sucks, just listen to the crowd because they are heated.
That's great, man. And like I said, this looks like a really, like we talk about filler episodes sometimes. This seems like the opposite of that. This seems like a lot of important information, important thing. Like I'm genuinely stoked to be done, to wrap up this podcast and check out the episode just because it looks like and sounds like a really good episode outside of maybe one or two things. So, yeah, it looks like they continued to improve on Dynamite, and that's something that we kind of were asking for a couple weeks there where we thought things weren't the best. So that's great. That's really good. I'm glad that really wraps everything up for Dynamite, right?
Yep, that's everything. That's how they ended the show.
Sweet. So we will cover Dark on our episode on Monday. We'll cover all of the matches. We won't give the results, but we'll cover the matches that they have lined up on our next episode. We'll also run down any updated news. We already talked about the ratings at the beginning of the episode. So is there anything that we're missing, AJ?
I don't think so.
All right, so that's time. That means it's time for you to go ahead and plug your social media.
You can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJTheFitzy.
And as always, you can check the podcast out on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. You can check us out on Instagram at All Elite Everything. And we are also on Facebook at facebook.com/All Elite Pod. If you're checking us out on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We love to get new viewers every week. Thank you guys for sticking around with us despite our change in schedule over the last couple of weeks, last month or so. Things have been a little hectic, but we do plan on getting on a more regular schedule, a Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Thursday thing a lot more. So thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for listening. And until next time, see ya.
Bye.